What's going on, everybody? This is Temperature Check. I am your host, as always, man. Mr. Check the Temperature. How y'all doing? Before we get started with today's content, I must do what I always do anytime you see me on your screen. And it's thank you guys for the likes, comments, shares, most importantly, those subscriptions. So whether you be a day one fan or somebody who just started rocking with me today, man, I greatly appreciate it. If you loving what I got going on my YouTube and you want to see more of me, man, hit me up on Instagram, hit me up on Twitter. It's just that simple. Mr. Check the Temperature on both of them platforms. But before we get started off into today's topic, man, gotta remind y'all, these Temperature Check red canvas hats are going by pretty quickly, man. They are $25 plus shipping. I'm gonna tell you right now, shipping is running like $9 or $10 or where you at. So $25 plus shipping for the red canvas curved bill Temperature Check hats. Can't wait for y'all to see them. But for the hoodies, from ranges from small to XL, we are doing $45 plus shipping. Again, shipping is gonna be $9 to $10 depending on where you at. For double XL and above, it will be $50 for those hoodies. And again, $9 to $10 for shipping. We have 4 different colorways. We have light gray, dark gray, red, and black. So if you're interested in any of that apparel, man, hit me up. I know y'all gonna hold me down. I'm not too much worried about it. But, you know what I'm saying, you wanna bless a brother's Cash App as well, you know what I'm saying? Throw me $1 or 2, man, you know what I'm saying? I definitely appreciate it. But let's get off into today's topic, man. So what I've always said and what I've always told y'all, Temperature Check, it is more than battle rap. It's more than sports. It's even more than the community topics I touch on. It is an infinity and tundra. Temperature Check is a coin phrase. It is an infinity and tundra. It works for every situation in life. But today, man, I want to pick a community topic that I want to discuss. And you know, this is gonna be a tough discussion, but it's gonna be a real discussion. It's gonna be honest. So y'all just gonna have to kind of bear with me. And again, keep an open mind because I'm only telling the truth, and this is my truth, my perspective, no one else's. Just from what I see and what I'm reading. So, you know, 2020 brought about a lot of tragedy. Obviously, personally in my life, but more, you know what I'm saying, more importantly, globally, it brought a lot of tragedy. We were able to 2020, it kind of revealed itself. It kind of revealed who we are as a culture, who we are as a people, and definitely exposed and shed a much needed light on some of the flaws that we have in our society. But one of the stories that came out of this past 2020 was the Jacob Blake story. Now, you know, obviously this summer was a very tension-filled, emotion-filled summer with everything that was going on. Of course, COVID pretty much had the world on standstill. Then you have the George Floyd, which pretty much put everyone into almost a racially tensioned situation. There was no longer a black and white. It seemed it was either you was on one side of the fence or you was on the other. There was no more gray at that point. And so this was a story that came out again in the heat of the summer that actually was resurfaced because there was an update to this story. And so I want to kind of talk about the Jacob Blake case. And again, this is the truth. We might not like it, but this is what it is. I'm gonna give you my best opinion and my best analysis on the situation. So I'm gonna start off with giving you a summary for those who don't know who Jacob Blake is or do not know his story. So this incident happened August 23rd in Kenosha, Wisconsin. Jacob Blake is an African American male who was shot 7 times by the Kenosha, Wisconsin police. So obviously, again, you putting this into perspective where we were last summer, having the George Floyd, you had all the social injustices that were being brought to light. You had police brutality that was looked at the first time as being something that we needed to change, and we were starting to see drastic changes in a lot of different cities. So this was a highly sensitive situation for everyone involved. So essentially how this story unfolded is that the police were called about a domestic dispute between Jacob Blake and his children's mother. Blake had, at that point in time, what we didn't know is that Blake had an active warrant out Again, this is going to be the facts of the case. Blake had an active warrant out for his arrest with domestic violence offense and a sexual assault charge. And mind you, this was also a house that the police had already been out here multiple times for domestic violence situations. And stop right there. We're going to stop the story right there. This is what I need y'all to understand. People, we have to stop using the police as our relationship counselors. The police are supposed to be used for emergency situations only, not when you and your boyfriend get into an argument and y'all mad at each other. Because when you call somebody who is not in your house to come in your house, you have to then live with the results. My dad always says what happens in this house stays in this house. But when you bring outsiders in your house, you open yourself up for opinions and you open yourself up for criticism. So please, that's the first lesson. We really need to stop using the police as our relationship counselors, because that is not what they are there for. So I'm going to continue. And so with that being said, the attorneys for the police officers state, every decision the officers made during this incident is in response to this call must be interpreted in light of these facts. So the facts are, this was not the first time that the police had come to Jacob Blake's house in regards to a domestic violence incident. Now, what the magnitude of that, we'll never know. But we know there are records showing that they have been to his home multiple times for this very same thing. And the mother of Jacob's children is quoted by saying that she feared that he was going to take this car. Now, the problem I have with that is, allegedly, Jacob Blake is claiming that the mother of his children actually rented the car for Jacob Blake because his car was in the shop. He is claiming that she actually rented that car for him. So that's my second problem. When we get mad, we cannot then use information that we have to make the other person look guilty. When we react emotionally, things go bad. Things can go bad quickly. We need to understand that. And really, so you already have two mistakes that I'm pointing out right now. You have people using the police, law enforcement, given the tension that's going on already, using law enforcement as your relationship counselor. That's not what they're there for. Let's just be clear about that. That's not what they're there for. And then Jacob Blake is claiming that you rented the vehicle for him. So if he has the keys and you rented it for him, why are you then telling police it's your car, it's registered in your name? At that point in time, you are portraying a fact that you're making it seem as if Jacob Blake is trying to steal your car. Again, last summer was a very heightened summer. But we need to look at the facts of this situation. So we're just talking about the facts right now. The officer is quoted by saying, Officer Rustin Shesky, that is the officer that ultimately fired his gun 7 times into Jacob Blake. He's quoted by saying, I don't know what he is going to do. What? That doesn't even make any sense. What do you mean you don't know what he's going to do? Do you know what anyone's going to do when you approach a situation? That's why you need to talk to people. You need to find out what is going on. Temperature check. Find out what is going on in the situation. Because the more information you can gather, you can draw the best conclusion for what he's actually going to do. So that's where the police made their mistake. But we will continue. Then the officer is also saying that he fired his taser at Jacob Blake. And Jacob Blake removed the tasers from his body. So that means, I'm assuming that he didn't just walk up on you and just shoot a taser, that there had to be some type of command that you did not comply with. So he ultimately ended up tasing you. Now all this is going on in front of the children. Who are the real victims in all of this? Let's be frank. Those are the real victims in all of this, is the children, Jacob Blake's children, who had to witness this horrific incident. So Jacob Blake somehow is able to remove the tasers from his body. So then the officer tries to use a technique called drive stun, where you simply take the metal prongs and you physically stab someone in the neck. So they come with two different prongs. You take one prong and you put them in the neck, put it in the neck, and then you take the second prong and you put it in the person's back. And it's not meant to kill someone, but it's just meant to incapacitate them. But some kind of way, Jacob Blake was able to elude that technique as well. So after this whole tussle breaks, there were several commands given. This is all alleged by the officer. There were more commands given. Blake claims, and so then what you see is the officer claims that he heard someone say he has a knife. Now the officer is admitting he did not see the knife at this point, but he's hearing someone saying he has a knife, he has a knife. The next thing we see is the tussle. And this is where the two camera angles come in. So you have one camera angle that is on the passenger side of this vehicle, and you have a second camera angle that's across the street in a second-story apartment, I do believe, that is facing the driver's side of this vehicle. So where the video picks up on angle one is on the passenger side, and this is after the as the tussle is ensuing between Mr. Blake and the police officers. So at some point in time, Mr. Blake admits that the knife falls, I guess it was in his waistline, and it falls into the ground. After the tussle, he then picks up the knife. I am not saying, yes I am, he wrong. So you're already in a scuffle with the police, and then the next thing you decide to do after dropping the weapon is then picking the weapon back up for what he claims to put it in a safe area. So the video shows him walking towards the driver's side. Now, as he's walking towards the driver's side of the vehicle, I will say this. He doesn't look like he's in a demonstrative, aggressive manner. He doesn't look aggressive. He looks like he is, I don't see his fist balled up. I don't hear him cussing or yelling or screaming. I don't hear any of that. I see him walking to the driver's side of his vehicle. Now, mind you, at this point in time, there is also a child in the vehicle that is in the back seat. The mother of Jacob Blake's children has claimed and told police that she is in fear that he's not only going to take the car, he's going to take the child. So now, not only do you have police officers possibly looking at someone who could be carjacking, you also have someone who could be kidnapping. These are the facts. These are the facts of this situation. So what you see is from the second camera angle from the upstairs apartment, you have Jacob Blake opening his driver door and leaning into his vehicle. Now the officer is saying that he was afraid that he was going to take off with the child, or he was going to do something with the child. And so you see him actually closely following Blake as he's trying to get to the driver car. You see him reach for Jacob Blake's shirt to pull him back out of the vehicle. At this point, you do not see Jacob Blake, I don't believe, is in a position to where he's about to go sit in the actual driver's seat of the vehicle to take off. I did not see that. I see both feet on the ground. I see him leaned into the vehicle to what he said was putting the knife in the middle console. So his actions look like he's doing exactly what he said in the video. He said that's what he was going to do. That's exactly what it looks like to me. But again, you have now picked up a weapon after getting into a fight with a police officer. The police officer knows you have this knife, but doesn't know what you're going to do. He doesn't know your mindset. So the reason the officer says that he shot Mr. Blake is because when he pulled on his shirt, he kind of twisted his waist back towards the officer, and then that's when the officer started shooting. I can see that. I can see that happening. If someone was pulling on my shirt, I would probably try to get them off. I can see that. The problem I think where the community has is I don't want to coin the phrase overkill, because fortunately Mr. Blake did not die from the wounds that he sustained. Although he has long-lasting physical impairment because of it, he was shot 7 times. Let's put that in perspective. We just seen what happened in Washington, D.C. last week. Thousands of terrorists rushed a government building and destroyed government property, obstructed government official business, and there were more shots fired into Jacob Blake's body than were fired by police into that crowd. That is where the community is upset at. But this is what I'll also say. Everything is not a police brutality situation. What did you think was going to happen? Did you think if you didn't comply with officers, you got into a fight with an officer, they deployed their taser twice in some way, a form or fashion, they deployed their taser twice, what did you think was going to happen? You then, not to mention you picking up the knife to what you say is to put it in a safe environment. What did you think the outcome was going to be? You just saw the George Floyd. They kill for less. You've seen innocent black people kill for less, and you got into a fist fight, a physical altercation with police, and you was surprised. Everything is not a Black Lives Matter situation. I will be completely frank. Everything is not a Black Lives Matter police brutality situation. The officer is claiming that he kept firing until Jacob Blake's body hit the ground. But at what point does Mr. Blake comply with police officers? Because his mind, he's thinking, and he's quoted by saying this, he just didn't want to get arrested in front of his kids because it was one of his son's birthday. Completely understandable. But why not just listen to the officers when they got there? Why not just comply to whatever the officer was saying? You've seen them do more for less. You know, I had a couple years ago, I did a speech at my church for Father's Day. I'm just trying to make it home to my girls. When people ask me, how are you doing? I'm a black man living in America. I'm just trying to make it home safe to my girls tonight. That is usually the response I get. And you know, there might be a slight chuckle, but all good jokes contain true quoted by J. Cole. So if you've seen this play out time and time again, why put yourself in a situation such as this? This is what we need to talk about. Is there police brutality? Is there a problem with the police department and the police criminal justice system? Absolutely. Are they targeting black men and women and people of color? Absolutely. But every situation does not justify protest. Every situation does not justify anger towards the police. Because just as we're trying to make it home to our family, they're trying to make it home to theirs. This is a horrible situation. This is a horrible, tragic situation. You have a young man who now, because of this incident that happened, a couple split-second decisions, he is now paralyzed from the waist down. All because he did not comply with police officers. you know, again, when you think about the facts of the situation, the police have already been there several times for the same situation. They're already gonna have a heightened sense of the situation. They're already gonna be, they're already, again, the officer says he doesn't know what Mr. Blake is going to do, which I think is a very irresponsible quote, because you never know what anyone's going to do unless they tell you, or unless they do it in front of you. But what would you have liked the officer to do? I guess that's the question we need to ask ourselves in this specific situation. What was the officer supposed to do? He had already been in a fight with this man. I'm assuming I'm assuming that there was an initial set of dialogue. There was an initial set of words that transpired between Mr. Blake and the officers. But of course, there was no body cam, because for whatever reason in 2020, police officers still are not walking around with body cameras. But that's another topic for another day. That's another topic for another day. But what I want to take out of this situations that we can all learn from as a people: one, stop calling the police if it's not an emergency situation. Stop calling the police to handle your relationship situations. We have to get past that. We have to stop that. Stop using information when you're upset that will turn a situation that could have been resolved through words into a situation where a young man is no longer able to walk with his sons to the park, able to play basketball with his sons. Just think about that. He could have lost his life. Very well could have. So we're thankful that he didn't lose his life, but we also have to recognize that he made some bad decisions within this. He made some bad decisions in some situations, and because of those bad decisions, the situation that he is in right now, it's not good. Again, like I said, this is just what I see when I look at this case. These are just some of the things I take away from it. There's a lesson in every situation. There's a lesson in every situation. This is ours. And this is Temperature Check. I am your host as always, man. Mr. Check the Temperature. Like, comment, subscribe for the channel. Like always, we just getting started.